All right, geometry. We are talking about ratios and proportions today. It's the start of our new chapter. Our new chapter's overall is a focus on similar triangles. Okay, so to start out, we need to make sure we know what ratios and proportions are. Okay, so for a ratio is a comparison of two or more, because we're going to actually have more sometimes, or more quantities. Okay, so to represent ratios, the most common way to represent a ratio is a fraction, A over B. Or you can say A to B, or A to B with a colon. Okay. And so ratios, no matter what way you represent them, can always be and should always be simplified. Okay, so looking at these first ones, what's the ratio of trumpets to violins? So it says a music store has 40 trumpets, 39 clarinets, 24 violins, 51 flutes, and 16 trombones. So for trumpets, it's going to be 40 to violins is 24. Okay, so we always need to make sure we are reducing. So to reduce that, I would probably divide by 4 first, and I get 10 over 6. Well, could have done 8, because I can also reduce 10 over 6 to 5 over 3. Okay, so you always want to fully simplify. Okay, so same thing on flutes and clarinets, 51 over clarinets, which is 39. Same thing, I can divide that by 3. That would be 17 over 13 if you divide by 3. Trombones, 16. To trumpets, 40. This time I'm going to divide by 8, get 2 over 5. Okay, and then violins to total instruments. So violins were 24. And then I got to add these up. So I got 40 plus 39 plus 24 plus 51 plus 16 is 170. Okay, so to divide that, again, I don't really know, so I'm going to just divide by 2. So 170 divided by 2 is 85. And I don't think 85 and 12 divide by anything. So that would be my solution. All right. So extended ratios are when we have more than just 2. So that is a comparison of 3 or more quantities. Extended ratios are written as A to B to C. Can't write those as fractions because fractions are only numerator and denominator. Okay, so if this is the case, so a ratio of 2 complementary angles is 3 to 7. Find the measure of both angles. Well, complementary means they add up to 90. Well, if the ratio is 3 to 7, I don't know what the actual number is, so I can just say 3 times whatever plus 7 times whatever equals 90. I don't know how much it is, so I need to make sure I multiply it by a certain number to get that actual ratio. So that'd be 10x equals 90. So when I divide by 10, I realize x is 9. So in that case, it'd be the 2 angles would be 3 times 9 is 27, and 7 times 9 is 63. Okay, so 27 and 63 are my 2 angles. Okay, so in the same way, number 6 would be supplementary, so same thing to 180. But looking at number 7, this is more of an extended ratio. So the ratio of the measures of angles in a triangle are 4 to 7 to 9. Find the measures of the angle. So we know all angles in a triangle always add up to 180. So it would be 4x plus 7x plus 9x equals 180. I don't know what the angles are yet, but once I find x, I'll be able to multiply those numbers. So that's, excuse me, 16, 4 is 20x when you add those together. And so when I divide by 20, I end up with x equals 9, which is ironic because the other one was 9. But, so the angles are going to be 4 times 9, 7 times 9, and 9 times 9. So that is 36 degrees, 63 degrees, and 81 degrees. Okay? And so when it's asking for a specific one, you got to really make sure you're paying attention to what it's asking for. So 11 to 2 to 5 for the angles of a triangle, 11x plus 2x plus 5x equals 180. So 11 plus 2 is 13, plus 5 is 18x equals 180, which when I divide, I get x equals 10. So when I plug all those in, I don't really actually need to plug all of them in, but I would get 110, 20, and 50. But it asks for the largest angle, so therefore 110 degrees would be my largest angle. Okay? So on to the back side, we're talking proportions. Okay? We could talk about perimeter here, but it's basically the same setup. Okay, I'm not going to do the whole thing here, but same thing. If your ratio adds up to the perimeter, that's your setup, and then you'd solve for x the same way. So proportions. This is something you've seen before as well. A proportion is an equation that states two ratios are equal. So it's an equation. So when it asks if you have a proportion, it has to be an equation. It has to be an equal sign. That states that two ratios are equal. And a proportion is always written as two fractions. So if one of them's not a fraction, you can make a whole number into a fraction. Okay, so the cross product property says that if you have a proportion, you can always cross multiply. That equals that. Okay, so A times D, hold on a second. A times D equals B times C. Cross multiply. Okay, so for these examples, starting with number 11, I would say, I always start with the one that has a variable if there's only one. So like this cross product first. 2x equals 4 times 7 is 28. And then I divide. X equals 14. Okay, same thing here. I would start with the one that has the x value. So 19 times x minus 1. If you have more than one thing in a term like this, x minus 1, you need parentheses so that you make sure to distribute. Okay, and then 6 times 13 is 78. Okay, so at this point, you can either divide by 19 or distribute. So 19x minus 1 equals 78. So I add 1 to both sides. That's 19 times 1 is 19. So I add 19 to both sides. I get 19x equals 78 plus 19 is 97. And so I divide by 19. 97 divided by 19. That doesn't look right. What did I do wrong? Oh, nothing. It's just a decimal. So 5.1 or so. We'll just round to the nearest tenth. Okay. So kind of the same deal here. I'm cross multiplying, but again, I'm going to start with the one that has x. So 20 parentheses 2x minus 9 equals 9 times 10 is 90. So distribute, that's 40x minus 180. And I add 180 to both sides. And I get 40x equals 270. Okay. So when I divide by 40, I'm going to get another decimal, but that's okay. Divide by 40, I get 6.75 or 6.8. Okay. There we go. So for number 17, I've got same situation, but it doesn't really matter which one I start with because they both have the x value. Okay, so 3 times x minus 11, distribute 18x minus 360 equals 3x minus 33. So on this particular type of situation, I need to make sure to get x on one side, so subtract 3x, and that's going to give me 15x. Well, I'm going to also get rid of 360 to the other side, and that's going to give me 327. Okay, and then when I divide by 15, I end up with x equals 327 divided by 15, which is 21.8. There we are. Okay, so our last couple examples here are kind of tough because this goes back to last year, which had to do with we had to be able to factor. Okay, so when you multiply this times this, I get x minus 1 times x plus 5 equals 5 times 27, which is 135. Okay, so when I double distribute, I'm going to get x times x is x squared, 5x, and then negative 1x, positive 4. And so I combine the two like terms in the middle together. 4x plus 4 equals 135. Now, to do this, I need to make sure to have everything equal to 0. Okay? So if you have x squared involved, ever, okay, you need to make sure it's equal to 0. Okay, so x squared plus 4x minus 131 equals 0. Okay? And so in this case, I need to figure out what two factors of negative 131 give us 4. Okay, so one of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. All right, so when I'm going through the factors of 131, I have 131 divided by, let's say, 7, 131 divided by 9, 131 divided by 11, okay, 131 divided by 10. Oh wait, I have the wrong number. Hold on a second. I didn't multiply this right. Let's back up. When I multiplied negative 1, I didn't get the right thing. That's supposed to be negative 5. Okay, so let's change that real quick. Minus 135, that's going to be negative 140. Okay, now it's going to make sense. Okay, so two factors of 140. So what times what gives us 140 and gives us a difference of 4. And so 14 times 10, if I have a positive 4, I need a positive 14 and a minus 10. Okay, now we have two factors. So x plus 14 equals 0, x minus 10 equals 0. And so when I subtract 14, get x equals negative 14. And then add 10, I get x equals 10. And so looking at those two, those are my answers. Okay, so let's check this one out here. Might have a different answer. So we can factor, or we can use the quadratic formula as well. So I've got 2x plus 5 times x minus 6 equals 6 times 7 is 42. Okay, so again, distribute. I get 2x squared minus 12x plus 5x minus 30 equals 42. Double distribute. So combine the like terms in the middle. That's negative 7x minus 30 equals 42. And now I need to go ahead and subtract 42 to make it equal to 0. And so we end up with 2x squared minus 7x minus 72 equals 0. So for the quadratic formula, the quadratic formula is, hold on a second, negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. Well, in this case, a, b, c. So I have negative 7 plus or minus b squared, which is negative 7 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, c, which is negative 72. All of that over 2 times a, which is 2. So that's 7 plus or minus 49. That's 2 negative, so plus 72 times 2 times 4 is 576 divided by 4. So 576 plus 49 is 625 in the middle. So 7 plus or minus square root is 625 over 4, which is 25. So 7 plus or minus 25 over 4. So when I get both of those answers, I'm going to have 7 plus 25 is 32 over 4, which is 8. And then 7 minus 25, which is negative 18. And that's going to give me negative 4.5. Okay, and there we go. That's using quadratic formula. Now, those last two, with the factoring and the quadratic formula, that's not going to be a big focus right now. Okay, but just wanted to kind of give you a look at that as we go through. Okay, there you go. Peace.